Hello there, people of the internet. My name is Ruto Chigero, and this is Political Headache. This is called Fat Facts, the things that we go through that is affecting the country each and every day. Now, today, we want to talk about something called EGPS. This is something that has been putting a tug of war between the government and even the MPs. I'm your host, Ruto Chigero, and today we want to talk about this. So this is the thing. Right now, we are having a battle over Kenya's new electronic government procurement system. And as I said, it is called the EGPS.
All government procurement, end to end, will be on our e-platform.
So this is in line with the provisions of the Constitution, even before you come to the policy direction of the government. This is a major milestone.
This reform is the answer to it all.
To understand why the government is pushing so hard for this EGPS system, we need to talk about what came before it, the Integrated Financial Management Information System, what a lot of people call IFMIS. Now, IFMIS was supposed to be Kenya's answer to public finance management. It was conceived back in 1998 and rolled out to the government ministry starting in the year 2003. So, how was it built? The tech was built on Oracle software. It was designed to track budgets, payments, and procurement from the start to finish. The promise was very simple. Okay? More transparency, less corruption, and better management of public funds. But here is the problem. IFMIS never quite delivered on that promise. The system had a fatal flaw. While it digitized the early stages of budgeting and planning, when it came to the actual procurement processes, the part where tenders are awarded and payments are made, everything often reverted to the paper. So we had manual processes, human intervention, and whenever you have manual processes in procurement, you have opportunities for corruption. And boy, we did see corruption. Remember the 5 billion shillings fraud scandal at the Ministry of Health, or the 1.8 billion shillings theft at the National Youth Service? Both of these scandals were executed through fraudulent payments that exploited weaknesses in IFMIS. An audit by the Office of the Auditor General found that IFMIS had serious security problems. We are not talking about basic stuff here, like passwords that were set to never expire, inadequate data protection, staff who weren't properly trained. The system was essentially a sitting duck for anyone who wanted to manipulate it. So when Treasury officials talk about IFMIS being a flawed legacy system, they are not actually exaggerating. The question is whether their solution, the EGPS, is the right one, and whether they are rolling it out the right way. That is the fundamental question. And at Political Headache, that is what we want to make you understand. Okay? Everything happens on one digital platform. From the moment the government office it identifies a need all the way through to the final payment. No more paper. That is what they promise. No more manual processes. That is what they promise. Everything is tracked. Everything is transparent. Everything leaves a digital footprint. And as somebody who is a passionate techie, I love that.
Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi has insisted that all public entities and county governments must continue using the electronic government procurement system in defiance of a High Court decision temporarily suspending its mandatory use. Appearing before the National Assembly's Committee on Implementation, Mbadi defended the system as transparent, cost-effective and vital in curbing wastage of public funds, even as MPs vehemently urged a gradual rollout.
So, let us look at the components of the new system. The system has several components. First, there is a supplier registration. Every business that wants to sell to the government has to register online, which is perfect. The system verifies your business registration, your tax compliance with KRA, everything. The idea is that only legitimate, compliant businesses can participate and do business with the government. Then there is the e-tendering and the e-auction. Tenders are published online, bids are submitted electronically, and the entire evaluation process happens in the system. There is a module for competitive bidding where you can actually see bids being placed in real time, like eBay, or I don't know, another, maybe Woot, maybe Amazon, but for government contracts, okay? Once a contract is awarded, this is very important, and this is why I love the new system, at least the way they tell us, at least the way on paper. There is an e-contract management. Now, what does this do? This tracks what goods or services have been delivered, processes payments, and maintains a complete audit trail. Now, if someone tries to claim payment for work they didn't do, there is a digital record showing exactly what happened. Excellent, and I love it. The system even embeds government policies. For example, the Access to Government Procurement Opportunities Program, AGPO, which reserves 30% of contracts for youth, women, and persons with disabilities, is built right into the platform. Amazing. Now, here is where it gets really, really interesting. And this is where the noise is coming from. The government is making big claims about what the system will achieve. Treasury officials, led by Mr. Mbadi, have thrown around savings figures ranging from 50 billion annually all the way to 200 billion. That's a massive range. And frankly, it's one of the weaknesses in their argument. And I'm going to explain that. When your projected savings vary by 150 billion shillings, depending on who is talking, it raises questions about whether these numbers are based on solid analysis or what I call political marketing. And we know that President Ruto's government, actually the other day, he was saying that I used to promise a lot, lakini saa hizi nimepunguza. So when the government of Ruto, especially, is giving such crazy, gaps in figures, I am a little bit not impressed. And this sounds to me like political marketing. Now, but the core promise is compelling. And I want you to listen to this very clearly. Less corruption, they say, faster procurement, lower cost, and a system that works for everyone, including small businesses and marginalized groups who have historically been locked out. Now, that is the vision. We then need to talk about why it's meeting such fierce resistance, especially from Parliament and everybody that is trying to get money from the government.
A showdown is brewing between the executive, the Council of Governors, and the legislature over the rollout of the Electronic Government Procuring System, or EGP.
Some parts of this country do not have internet, Mr. Speaker. How do you want someone in Samburu, in the outlying areas of Mandera, in Kerioval, Mr. Speaker, where there's no signal, for them to participate in tender process that is called EGPS, Mr. Speaker?
The law says, the law, not a circular, not regulations, not any letter of communication from any minister, the law. The law says that you are allowed to use electronic or manual procurement system.
This House annuls in its entirety the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority Circular on the enforcement of compliance with the mandatory use of the Electronic Government Procurement System, EGPS.
The Council of Governors has also rejected the system, calling it a forceful takeover that should instead be implemented in phases to allow procurement entities time to adapt, warning that critical county services could grind to a halt.
Users are not properly trained. That is one of the biggest challenges. Number two, it has not worked anywhere. I think it was only piloted in 4 counties and we never even got back the report.
But we are denying the wananchi critical services. We need to procure medicine. So if medicine cannot be procured, how do we treat people? That is a security risk in itself.
They still want to go back to manual and manipulate procurement, where they pluck papers from the tender documents, and that is what we are not going to allow.
If the EGPS system is so great, why are MPs and governors fighting it so hard? Well, there are three main lines of attack, and they are not all equal in their merit. The first is legal, and this is actually the strongest argument that the opposition has against the system. The National Assembly's Finance Committee looked at the Treasury circular mandating the use of EGPS and said, wait a minute, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, the actual law passed by Parliament, explicitly allows for both electronic and manual procurement methods.
You cannot change the law by a circular. You can only change the law through Parliament. And that's why I was saying in my earlier contribution that people don't know the powers we have. They will realize our power is slowly. Then they will realize the people who matter.
The MPs are saying, look, if you want to go completely electronic, then you are actually breaking the law by refusing that we cannot have manual procurement methods. The reason why Parliament actually wants manual procurement methods to be in payment of government tenders is something I don't understand. I have a feeling that they are old people. Maybe I'm wrong. But by issuing an administrative circular that overrides this law, the MPs argue that the executive branch is essentially trying to make new law without going through Parliament. This isn't a small point. This is about the separation of powers. This is about whether the Treasury can use a simple directive to override the statute law. If I had a lawyer, I would ask them, but I did. In fact, I did ask them, and they told me that even though they think that Parliament has a say, they smell a rat on why the MPs actually want this to happen. Okay. The Committee on Delegated Legislation went further, saying the circular violates multiple articles of the Constitution, including the fundamental principles of good governance and the requirement of procurement to be fair and transparent. Parliament voted unanimously to annul the circular. All right, people of the internet, I hope that you're enjoying this episode very much. And I just had a break to tell you about my new book. You know, everybody says that there is no job, and that is true. Also, that was me 10 years ago. The problem is that everybody is trying to get a job in their town, in their city, in their marketplace. They ask friends for jobs, mothers call uncles, uncles call brothers, but there are no jobs. Let me tell you what no one is telling you. Jobs migrated online. What I actually mean is there are many, many jobs around the world and there is no one to do them except you. I work for Americans myself. I work for Europeans. I work for the Chinese. I work for the Australians. I work for the Canadians. And so, because I have done so much for myself, I said to myself, you know what? I should compile what I've been doing for the last 15 years. So in 2024, I wrote a digital book called Goldmine 18 Hustles for Africans. And then in 2025, AI came. People say AI is taking away our jobs. And for me, I'm going to say false. There are actually AI jobs. Jobs are not being taken by AI, but there are new jobs online that are there because of AI. Now, mimi ni nani? I created more jobs. And for now, in my new book, we have 25 online and offline jobs that you can leverage on if you do not have a job. So in this powerful volume 2, I share 25 new actionable online hustles specifically researched and tailored for Africans. My new book provides clear step-by-step guidance drawing from my extensive experience and research, including the mistakes I've made and lessons I've learned over the 15 years that I have worked online. So what can you do online? You can become an executive assistant for busy folks in Europe, America, Canada, and get paid for tasks like watching videos and taking online surveys. Okay? You can build a lot of things. Build a business as a virtual assistant, start an e-commerce shop without capital, be an affiliate marketer, or you can also become actually an English tutor and tens of AI jobs. If you have a job, that is fine. But I also know But you can buy this book for that brother, for that sister, for that mother, for that cousin, for that husband who is watching Netflix all day at home. Buy it for your friend who is always asking for cash. You know that friend. Now, all the information is on the description below. You can also inbox me, you can WhatsApp me, or go to my website, which is odworjigero.co.ke. And now, back to programming. So, legally, the MPs have a strong case. The executive is essentially trying to go through the back door what is it should go through proper legislation. The second line of opposition is about equity and the digital divide. Here is the thing. Not every part of Kenya has reliable internet. Not every business owner is tech savvy, and that is correct. If you are a small hardware shop in Samburu trying to supply desks to a local school, how are you supposed to use an online platform when you barely have electricity, let alone broadband? MPs argue that making the system mandatory will lock out small and medium enterprises, especially in rural areas. I have a problem with that because I think there is internet everywhere, and if you are doing business with the government, there are actually cyber cafes where you can go and you can have this done. I do not agree with the MPs. As a matter of fact, we are having KCDF everywhere around this country. Why is it that the government and the MPs have not created libraries where small business people can actually go and use the internet for free? This, I think, will create even more jobs for people in the rural areas. When you can always go there and be tried to do a tender for the government, that's good.
So many counties have onboarded their annual procurement plan and they can procure. Right from Lamu, Kilifi, I know Makueni, I know Murang'a. In fact, the county government of Murang'a should be given a medal. They are so committed to this system.
It will concentrate government contracts in the hands of tech-savvy businesses in Nairobi and other urban centers, the very groups that AGPO is supposed to help. Youth, women, persons with disabilities may find themselves unable to compete because they lack the technology and the training. All right, fair enough. This is powerful argument because it is relatable. We all know Kenya's digital infrastructure is uneven. Forcing everyone onto digital platform before the infrastructure is ready seems like putting the cart before the horse. The third line of oppositions comes from governors, and it is about implementation. Let's have a look at that. The Council of Governors has been blunt. They say the rollout is rushed, flawed, and disruptive. The system actually, to be fair to the Council of Governors, the system was piloted in only 3 counties before being rolled out nationally. And all the 3 pilots reported had major problems. The governors also say that the system causing paralysis in procurement, particularly in health services. They are threatening legal action to force the Treasury to allow the old system to continue operating alongside the new one. Now, here is where we need to be honest. The governors, the MPs, and the government. Not all opposition to EGPS is principled. Cabinet Secretary Mbadi has accused opposition of having vested interest in the manual system, essentially saying they want to preserve opportunities for corruption. Whether Mbadi is right or wrong is something for another day. And he might have a point, actually. When you build political and economic network around controlling manual procurement processes, a transparent digital system is an existential threat to what you have been doing. But even if some of the opposition is self-interested or self-centered, the legal and equity arguments are real and deserve serious consideration by the government, I believe. Which brings us to where we are now, a full-blown constitutional standoff between the executive and the legislature. On one side, you have CS Mbadi and the Treasury saying the digital shift is unstoppable and there is no going back, and that everyone who doesn't comply will face the consequences. Mbadi has challenged Parliament to show him where in the constitutional electronic procurement is illegal. He's argued that the Treasury has constitutional authority to design and implement government accounting and procurement system, and that's exactly what they are doing.
One of the contention that is currently being pushed is that Parliament revoked. If there is any government officer out there who is going to use that as an excuse, please know I'm not going to buy it. Parliament has not revoked anything, because the question I want to ask, we are implementing IFMIS as an accounting system. Why hasn't it been revoked? Can't you ask yourself? I have issued circulars on zero-based budgeting. I have issued circulars on treasury single account. When I issue circular on e-procurement, people have a problem with it. And all these are circulars from the National Treasury. It's because people have interest in procurement. That is the truth. They still want to go back to manual and manipulate procurement, where they pluck papers from the tender documents. And that is what we are not going to allow.
He's also been transparent about some details. Let's give Mbadi some slack. The system was procured in 2022 for 387 million shillings. It is owned by the government, not a foreign entity, and has both local and international service providers. On the other side, Parliament has formally and legally annulled the Treasury circular. They have done this through proper procedure, with committee reports and a vote in the House. They are saying the executive is bypassing the legislative arm or a process and trying to rule by a decree. So we have the executive branch insisting on implementation and a legislative branch that has formally nullified the legal basis for that implementation. This is a crisis of constitutional governance. And here is what makes even more complicated. There are international dimensions to all of this. The EGPS system isn't just a domestic reform. It's part of Kenya's commitments to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Okay? In fact, the World Bank recently froze $750 million in funding because Kenya failed to meet agreed upon conditions, including procurement reform. So the Treasury isn't just pushing this system because it's good policy. They're pushing it because we need to unlock international funding. The government is under pressure to show our development partners that we are serious about fighting corruption and reforming procurement. This means that even if Parliament is legally right, backing down might have serious financial consequences for the country. And that is the bid the government is in. That is the bind. So where do we go from here? How do we resolve this standoff in a way that respects the rule of law, protects vulnerable businesses, and still delivers the corruption-fighting benefits of digital procurement? Let me offer some thoughts, and these come from policy analysis we have been studying on this issue closely here at Political Headache. First, the Treasury needs to comply with the Parliament's directive and pause the mandatory rollout, not forever, but long enough to have genuine consultations with all the stakeholders, governors, small business associates, AGMO beneficiaries, civil society. This isn't a retreat. I think, in my thinking, it's a strategic regrouping. Secondly, abandon the Big Bang approach. Instead of making the system mandatory everywhere, all at once, roll it out in phases. Start with the high-value, high-risk procurement at the national level, where the benefits are clearest and the infrastructure is ready. Use that time to build capacity, provide training, and invest in digital infrastructure in counties that need it. Thirdly, and this is crucial, legislate the change properly. Work with Parliament to amend the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, make electronic procurement the default method, but also include explicit provisions for manual processes where digital access isn't feasible. This resolves the constitutional conflict and creates a solid legal foundation for reform. Fourthly, be honest and be transparent about the numbers. Publish a detailed, verifiable analysis of how the system will save money. Stop throwing around different figures depending on the audience. Build trust through transparency. And I think finally, invest in the infrastructure that makes this all possible. Digital procurement only works if people have internet access, electricity, and basic digital literacy. That infrastructure investment isn't about supporting EGPS. It's about bridging Kenya's digital divide and ensuring everyone can participate in the digital economy. The irony here is that both sides are particularly right. or partially right. The Treasury is right that we need to fight corruption and that the digital procurement can help. Parliament and the governors are right that the current approach is legally flawed and particularly and potentially exclusionary. The solution isn't to choose one side over the other. It is to find a path that delivers the benefits of digitization while respecting constitutional processes and ensuring no one is left behind. So, there you have it. This debate will define how billions of shillings are spent. And here at Political Headache, we are talking about facts, we are talking about figures. And if you have not followed us on social media, you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe now as I wait, and then hit on that notification button so that when an analysis like this is coming next, you are the first to get something from it. So follow us again. If you want to come to Political Headache and have a show, that is great. We are having a political town hall in Mombasa on the 21st or on the 22nd. We're going to tell you more about it. So if you are in Mombasa and you're listening to me, please come to Baraza Media Lodge, where Media Lab, where we're going to collect everybody and talk about the politics of our country. It is time for us to speak about politics. I used to love politics, but I didn't speak about it. But now I have realized that this country is yours, this country is mine, and we have to all chart the way forward. Thank you very much, and until another episode, bye for now.